Hi guys, today we're going to talk about all the books that I'm majorly anticipating in 2023. Couple caveats. One, I'm filming this a little bit later than planned, so a couple of these are already out. Two, this is only going to be for the first half of the year. I will do a part 2 of this video in June-ish, once there's a little bit more information about books coming out in the latter half of the year, but I just wanted to focus on the first half of 2023 in this video. And with that, let's get right into it. First up is The Stolen Heir, which came out on the 3rd of January. Again, cheating a little bit, this is already out, and I do already own it and am reading it, so not quite as an anticipated read anymore, really, but when I was making this list at the end of December, this was top of it, both chronologically and level of excitement. So this is a new duology in the Elfhame world that Holly Black has created with the Folk of the Air series, and I will read pretty much anything that takes place in this world. I think the development is amazing. I love the way that Holly Black writes Fae. She is expert at it. I love how cunning and tricksy they are and that they can't lie. It's just a lot of fun. This book takes place, I believe, like 10-ish years, 7 to 10 years, I think, after the Queen of Nothing, which was the last book in the Folk of the Air series. And it follows a slightly older Oak who was a child in the main series. He's now, I believe, 17 or 18. And our main character, Surin, who was also featured in Queen of Nothing. She was the queen of the Court of Teeth. She is now, I believe, 19 in this story, and she's kind of our protagonist. We're following her and sort of what she went through as a child. She was actually raised as a changeling. She didn't know she was a fae for the first few years of her life until she was stolen away to Elfhame and revealed to have blue skin, sharp teeth, and just a sort of monstrous nature. And she really struggles with this. She misses her mortal family. She calls them her unfamily now. And after the events of Queen of Nothing, she is sort of on her own, trying to make her own way in the world. But certain things from her past have caught up with her, and her life is in danger now, and she must team up with a teenaged Oak and go on a quest together. And we learn a bit more about their dynamic and the friendship they sort of formed in Queen of Nothing. And it's really good so far. I'm like, I think 20% of the way through, and it is living up to the anticipation that I had for it. And I'm just so happy to be back in this world. Like I said, Holly Black can write about these characters watching paint dry, and I will find it immensely entertaining. So glad to be back in Elfhame, and very much excited for the rest of the series. I believe it's only a duology, actually, but this first one is so good so far. The next one that also came out on January 3rd is Song of Silver, Flame Like Night. I don't know a whole lot about this one. I believe it is a debut. It is a YA fantasy inspired by Chinese folklore, and initially it did give me Jade Fire Gold vibes, so I was a little nervous about it because while I like the premise of Jade Fire Gold, that one was a bit of a letdown for me. But this one, while having kind of a similar setup, I hope will be a bit better. So we have kind of like a chosen one set up. A girl carries the key to discovering the secrets of her nation's past and has like this special power, and a boy who is a practitioner of this kind of forbidden magic finds her, and they go on like this quest together to uncover these mysteries. And I have in the past really been fond of stories that have been inspired by Chinese folklore and mythology, so I'm hoping to love this one as well. And that cover is stunning. I might pick up the Barnes & Noble special edition if they still have it, because it has like a green iridescent foiling to the cover that is just gorgeous. And I was holding off on buying this one because I wasn't sure if Faeries was going to do it, but I don't believe they are, so I think it's safe to buy the Barnes & Noble one of this. But yeah, so really looking forward to this one as well. And then coming out January 10th, we have Lost in the Moment and Found. Also sort of cheating. I have technically read this one. I got an arc of it. I was very lucky to get an arc of that on NetGalley, and I read it last month and Loved it. It's one of my favorite in the Wayward Children series so far, and I am anticipating buying it, so still counts. Like I said, this is the newest book in the Wayward Children series by Sean McGuire, and this is a one-off adventure. We follow a single child named Ancy who has a history of losing very important things, and one day ultimately finds herself lost and going through a door into a magical thrift shop world of sorts where lost things go. And this world is inhabited by magpies. We learn a little bit more about the mythology of the doors that these children in these books find themselves going through and why they are the way they are. And Ancy's journey is just so good. So this isn't a review, so I'm not going to get too deep into it, but excellent book. I love the Wayward Children series, and this is on my definitely need to buy list for this month. Then on the 17th, we have Mysteries of Thorn Manor coming out by Margaret Rogerson. This is a novella sequel of sorts to Sorcery of Thorns, and I think it's her first sequel, so I'm really excited. I've heard this one is like lighter stakes, kind of more of a cozy read, so I'm really excited for this one. I really love Elizabeth and Nathaniel. I think these characters are really fun, and I especially love Silas. Very curious to see these characters interacting again. The way Sorcery of Thorns ended was like, I need more. So I'm glad that Margaret Rogerson heard us and is blessing us with this sequel. Then on the 19th, and I believe this is a UK exclusive release, I don't think a US publisher has picked this book up, but I'm still very excited to read it. We have God Killer by Hannah Kaner, and this follows a character who kills gods for a living. She goes on quests and kills gods, and she enjoys it. That is until she finds a god she cannot kill, the god of white lies, who is connected to a little noble girl on the run. I don't know much about it. Beyond that, I kind of want to go into it just knowing that. That sounds like a really fun setup. I really enjoy fantasy novels that involve gods and humans interacting. I think it's always a recipe for an interesting, adventurous time. And again, this is definitely like the cover caught my eye, and even more so the Waterstones edition caught my eye. So I have this one pre-ordered. Have a couple packages from the UK that have been severely delayed because of the Royal Mail strikes, but I'm sure it will come eventually. Not sure when I'm going to get this one, but I'm excited to read it. Another sequel that I'm really excited about, we have Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun coming out on January 31st. This will be the third book in this series. It's kind of cozy mystery, which isn't my normal genre, but this series is just so fun. I don't really know exactly what the setup for this third one is, but the series overall follows Finley Donovan, who is a sort of newly single mother. Her ex-husband left her for their real estate agent, and she's also a struggling writer, and in the first book, she's talking to her agent in a Panera Bread, and she writes mysteries herself, so she's going over the plot of this new book with her agent, and she is overheard and mistaken for a hit woman because she's talking about killing characters off, but the woman that overhears her thinks she's talking about real people, and this woman in particular has a person that she needs. So she tries to hire Finley to take this person out, and Finley's like, I'm not a hitman, but gets sort of embroiled in this drama and mystery anyways, and this is truly just like shenanigans on steroids. I love this series, and it's a really fun time, so we'll definitely be picking this one up when it comes out on the 31st. Now we have a couple February releases. The first one is one that I'm very, very excited about, and that is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. I think this is her first adult book. We'll have to verify. And I'm not really totally sure exactly the details of this one. It has a very like magical realism feel to it. We follow a couple, and this woman, when she married this guy, was like, you can't look into my past. Like, we can get married, but you cannot look into my past. And he's like, cool, works for me, until events have them, I believe, going to her family's house, where events from her past are starting to bubble to the surface, and he finds himself very intrigued. I am not entirely sure what the fantasy element is in this. I know there's kind of like a gothic atmosphere thing going on, and dark secrets and tragedy, but I don't know what if it's paranormal or magical realism or what. Either way, I'm very excited about this one. The vibes that both the US and the UK covers have are just fantastic, and I believe it is an upcoming Fairy Loot book, so very excited to see what they do with that one. Then the book that is probably at the top of everyone's anticipated reads for 2023, if they like fantasy, is The Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is a prequel book to The Priory of the Orange Tree, which is one of the most popular and beloved books out on the internet right now, book talk, booktube, all that, and for good reason. It's a fantastic standalone, well, not so much standalone anymore, fantasy, and there's some really great sapphic action happening in that one. It's not all about that, obviously, but that is one of the things that draws people to this book, and dragons. So I believe this book takes place like several hundred years before the events of Priory, so I'm really curious to see what this might have to do with the main events of Priory, if certain actions have echoes that influence that plot or what, but I'm just excited for more dragons. I'm excited for this world. I will say the first 100 pages or so of Priory I think are really a make or break for a potential reader. It was a lot to wade through, but once I got over that hill, this was a really cool world and really cool set of characters, so I'm excited to see what the prequel holds. Then coming out on March 7th, we have The Foxglove King by Hannah Whitten. I know nothing about this book other than that the author is the same from For the Wolf and For the Throne. For the Wolf, I absolutely loved. Vibes were incredible. I liked the fairy tale dark retelling that she tackled with that one, and I feel like this new release of hers is gonna have very similar vibes. Not so similar that they're the same book, but that dark, sumptuous, gothic feel. The cover alone, like many of these covers, definitely drew me in. So a little blurb on Goodreads says, a young woman's secret power to raise the dead plunges her into the dangerous and glamorous world of the Sainted King's royal court. So yeah, there's a bit of necromancy happening, some dark magic stuff. I believe there's a slow burn romance. Just, my boxes are tick, 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 tick. I think this sounds incredible, and a lot of these books is just purely the vibe I'm getting from the covers, put it on my radar, so do with that what you will. Also on March 7th, we finally have the third book in the new Teen Titans graphic novel series coming out. This one is Robin, and I'm so excited. These graphic novels are illustrated by artists that I've been following on Instagram for literally years, who started off doing Teen Titans fan art and is now officially working with DC. So I think that is incredible. And the series has been a lot of fun. I grew up with the television show Teen Titans as a kid, and so seeing this sort of reimagining of these characters coming together again has been a lot of fun. There's familiar things like the character dynamics and the villain Slade, but there's also some new stuff, and I believe this Robin is actually going to be Damian Wayne, which is cool because he's I think the current Robin in the DC universe right now, and he's also the biological child of Bruce Wayne, Batman, so that's a lot of fun, and I love this series. It's really cozy and fun. It's definitely a YA graphic novel series, but if you have any fond memories of Teen Titans, definitely recommend it. The artwork is incredible, and it's just so cute. Another one for March 7th, that's going to be a big publishing day, is The God of Endings, which, great cover, and I think this is historical fiction vampire book. I keep seeing this book on NetGalley and Goodreads giveaways, and I'm so intrigued by both the title and the cover, but every time I read the book description, I'm I have no idea what this book is gonna be about. So yeah, we follow one immortal woman named Colette, who is a lonely artist who heads an elite fine arts school for children in upstate New York. Her youthful beauty masks the dark truth of her life. She has endured centuries of turmoil and heartache in the wake of her grandfather's long-ago decision to make her immortal like himself. Now in 1984, Colette finds herself upended by the arrival of a gifted child from a troubled home, the return of a stalking presence from her past, and her own mysteriously growing hunger. So, yeah, I think this is vampires. It's a little vague. But it seems like a kind of non-traditional approach to vampires, which I think is really cool, especially where like part of this book takes place in the 80s. So, again, purely vibes, really, but this seems cool and it's definitely on my radar. Then on March 21st, we have the 9th volume of Spy Family coming out, which is the only manga you're going to see on this list because I'm obsessed with it. I don't really know exactly what this specific volume is about, but I have talked about Spy Family in general a lot on my channel. I know Katie Colson and Gabby from Gabby Reads are also very big fans, so highly recommend. It's a very fun adventure family story that follows a spy named Twilight, his telepath daughter, and his assassin wife, and also their psychic dog. So shenanigans abound. Fantastic time. I love this series, and we'll be picking up volume 9 right away. Then on the 28th of March, we have the new T. Kingfisher book, which I was viciously denied on NetGalley, but it's fine. It's called A House with Good Bones. I believe this is kind of more of like a horror vibe book from T. Kingfisher. I have read both her fantasy and her horror novels, and I do tend to prefer her fantasy, but the Hollow Places gave me nightmares, so I am not unaffected by her horror novels. They're just not my favorite. Particularly because I prefer fantasy over horror anyways. Your mileage may vary. T. Kingfisher is fantastic, though. This is another one where I'm not quite sure what it's about. Apparently it's Southern Gothic. I think in particular it's about her mom, who is suddenly very changed, not right, off, and her and her brother are trying to figure out what's going on. I'm at the point where I'm just going to buy anything that T. Kingfisher comes out with because I like her writing so much. So, yeah, that one comes out in March, and I'm very excited for it. Also, on March 28th, we have Loki's Ring by Lena, I think it's Steicht. She's the same author that did Persephone Station, which has one of the most incredible covers I've ever seen. This one also has an incredible cover that really caught my eye. This one I think I actually first saw on NetGalley, which is rare. I usually see things on like Goodreads first, but this one I came across on NetGalley when I was browsing the sci-fi fantasy releases for this next year, and it seems really cool. I'm surprised no one's talking about this. So we're following the captain of a ship who receives a frantic distress call from the AI that she's trained from inception and views as like a daughter. So she receives a distress call from her and finds out that she's trapped in an area where there's been like an infection or like a contagion going around and has killed all like biological life forms. So she has to find a way to rescue her robot daughter without falling ill herself. So this seems very cool. I love the rescue mission. The AI as a child proxy seems like an interesting discussion for this day and age. Very excited to see what that's about. And yeah, I did hear kind of middling things about Persephone Station. I do own it. I haven't gotten to it yet, but the premise of this one sounds really cool. So I definitely want to check it out, and I have requested the arc on NetGalley, so hopefully I get that because that would be cool. Then in April, we have Rebecca Ross's new book coming out on the 4th, Divine Rivals. I believe this is a return to YA for her, and it has kind of like a historical fiction fantasy vibe to it, which seems cool. I love the combination of those two things. So the blurb on Goodreads says, when two young rival journalists find love through a magical connection, I believe like an enchanted typewriter, they must face the depths of hell in a war among gods to seal their fate forever. So this one sounds enchanting and lovely. I already know that I love Rebecca Ross's writing, and I haven't picked up a YA book from her yet. So I'm excited to read that one, and I do have an arc of this one if I can get around to reading it in time. Then, on the 18th of April, we finally have The Bone Shard War by Andrea Stewart coming out. I was so upset last year. It was supposed to come out in like November or December, I believe, but it got pushed back. I feel like I read somewhere that she had to like rewrite the whole thing because it just wasn't working. So I'm glad that she put the time in that it needed to make it end on a good note, because this series has been so incredible. again, it's a struggle where I'm like, I'm disappointed that it didn't come out when it was supposed to, but also like, if it's for the quality of it, I totally understand, but I've been dying to get my hands on this book for over a year now. The Bone Shard War is the third and final book in the Bone Shard Daughter series. Actually, I believe it's called the Drowning Empire series, the first one being the Bone Shard Daughter. There's bone magic, there's sinking islands, there's animal companions that are unlike anything else I've ever read about. There's like an Asian mythology inspiration happening. There's a pirate with a heart of gold. There's so many things about this series that are just absolutely incredible, and I loved the first 2 installments, so I'm really excited and highly anticipating the end of this series, and I can't wait. The cover was recently revealed. I love that it's purple. Incredible. So excited. Then on the 25th, we have Happy Place by Emily Henry coming out. This is, I think, the only romance that I have on this list. Whoops. I love Emily Henry. That's not an unpopular opinion by any means. And she's finally getting a book coming out in hardcover for, like, its first printing, which is incredible for her. Does mess up my personal romance collection a little bit, which is all paperback, but whatever. And I believe this is a second chance romance where this couple who rents a cabin in Maine every summer with their group of friends have to pretend like they're still dating even though they broke up a few months prior, and I believe on this trip their feelings are rekindled and hopefully they work their way through whatever problems broke them up from the start. So Emily Henry's always done a really good job of balancing the swoon-worthy romance with like the really heart-wrenching like character development stuff, and she balances it like no other romance author that I've ever seen can, and I'm sure this will be exciting and good as well. And I'm also very intrigued because this one takes place in Maine. I live in Maine. I hope she gets it right, so we shall see. On the same day coming out, we have In the Lives of Puppets, which is the new TJ Klune, and I believe this is like a Pinocchio retelling? I'm not entirely sure. I did just get approved for the arc of this on NetGalley though, so I'm very excited about that. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's like a Pinocchio retelling. We have a fatherly inventor named Giovanni, a pleasantly sadistic nurse machine, and a small vacuum desperate for love and attention. Victor Lawson, a human, lives there too, and they're a family hidden and safe. Victor one day salvages and repairs an unfamiliar android labeled Hap and learns of a shared dark past between Hap and Giovanni, a past spent hunting humans. Well, okay. I clearly had no idea what this book was about beyond Pinocchio, ? But okay. TJ Klune, again, is another author that I've loved everything I've picked up by him so far, and I continue to look forward to his new releases. So this one sounds really good, and I'm sure in true TJ Klune fashion, it will be heartwarming, and I will cry. Now, one that sort of recently got put on my radar, and I'm not quite sure if I'll actually like it, but I'm intrigued, is The Half Moon, which comes out May 2nd. This is like a contemporary, I think, lit fic. That follows a married couple who kind of are dealing with their lives starting to fray a little bit and kind of go in separate directions, or at least their interests. The husband is the longtime bartender at the Half Moon, which he's always dreamed of owning, and his boss is finally ready to retire, so he gets the opportunity to buy the place. And he's very excited about it, but then his wife is a lawyer and has been struggling for years to have a baby, and she's finally coming around to accepting that, like, that might not be in the cards for her. And like her husband, she begins to feel her youth slipping away, but she's trying to figure out how to reshape her life. So the story explores a marriage in crisis, what it takes to make a life with another person, and the true meaning of family. So, sounds kind of heavy, especially for what I normally read, but I don't know, I've been seeing it around a lot lately. I believe it was Gabby from Gabby Reads has an arc of this and is going to be reading it, and I don't know, it just sounds like a really interesting premise. I like the idea of aging, or like exploring aging and like your life words meaning kind of changing shape as you get older. So I'm curious about that one, and yeah, that one comes out on May 2nd. Just a couple more. Coming out on May 25th, we have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, which is another one that I know is at the top of many people's lists. The arcs for this one have been floating around, I feel like, for a while, and the official cover just got released, at least for the US. I don't know if it's the same for the UK, but this one deals with cultural appropriation and publishing and just a lot of like hot button topics at the moment. Yeah, so I believe our protagonist in this one has tried to become an author, but like hasn't done very well. And a colleague of hers who is Asian comes up with this incredible idea that like they know is gonna sell and like be really good and popular, but she dies, and the main character, who is a white woman, takes that manuscript and publishes it as herself and comes up with like a fake identity and stuff to publish it with. So very curious to read this. I'm sure it's gonna make a lot of people very angry. I'm anticipating that for sure, but I love R.F. Kuang. Haven't read Babel yet, but I do love the Poppy War, and I think she is one of the smartest people out there writing right now. So I'm really excited to read this one, and I'm sure it's going to be interesting. And then finally for my list, we have The Witch King by Martha Wells. This is their like foray back into fantasy after doing sci-fi for a really long time with the Murderbot series. This one comes out on May 30th. And beyond that, I don't really know much about it. I know Murderbot is really popular, and I do have the first one, and I've been intending to read it for a very long time, but I just get really intimidated by sci-fi reads, and it takes me a little bit longer to, I think, work up the courage to tackle them. So I'm very excited that Martha Wells is going back into fantasy, because this seems really interesting. And from what I've heard about Martha Wells' writing is that it is very funny, and it seems like this also extends to Witch King as well. So on Goodreads, the little description says, after being murdered, his consciousness is dormant and unaware of the passing of time while contained in an elaborate water trap. Kai wakes to find the lesser mage attempting to harness Kai's magic to his own advantage. That was never going to go well. But why was Kai imprisoned in the first place, and what has changed in his world since the assassination? Kind of vague, but interesting. Again, we kind of have like a character out of place situation, which is the vibe that I get from Murderbot as well. So I'm intrigued, and yeah, that comes out on May 30th. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for part one of my anticipated reads for 2023. I know some of those were kind of vague, but I like going into a book kind of just knowing the bare bones premise and seeing where it takes me from there. So hopefully at least this puts some books maybe on your radar that you hadn't heard about, or also helped kind of grow excitement for you for certain releases. I would definitely love to know what you're excited and anticipating for releases this year. If there were any that you think I missed, please let me know. I try to research upcoming books as much as possible, but some of them fly under the radar for me, so would love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please feel free to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, follow some links down in the description box for my other socials, drop a comment if you're feeling inclined, and as always, have a lovely day. Bye.